Councilman Duran, do you think that Joe Biden is an extremist? I do.
Absolutely. I mean, an extremist who is extremely intolerant of everybody who doesn't agree with him.
Yeah.
Now, the fundamental point, I mean, one of the things is he talks about democracy all the time, but his understanding of democracy is very different from my own. My understanding of democracy is that you have a diversity of opinions. I mean, mainstream people outside the mainstream, and sometimes the most useful people. Tom Paine, people, the anti-slavery movement, all sorts of people like this. Well, that's where political energy and movement in a democracy comes, and you need the civil rights movement, at time, and you need people like that. You need argument, you need debate, you need the people to be offered choices and alternatives and views. We talk about only a mainstream. Well, first of all, who defines the mainstream? Is it President Biden who tells us what the mainstream is?
I think it's the Atlantic.
It's ultimately his opinions, the opinions of the group that he represents, the oligarchy. They are the people who are mainstream, and everyone else is a extremist. Well, that is not a democratic position. That's a very authoritarian one and a very extreme one.
It is an extreme position.
It's ironic that Joe Biden's position on extremists is extreme.
Well, Alexander, I suppose you think the left shouldn't absolutely despise the working classes either.
So, Alex, anything you have to say on this?
I mean, I thought that it was cool to think different in the U.S. Didn't Apple have a whole commercial segment about thinking different? But Jimmy, they don't have a solution for anything. They don't want to explain how they got us into this mess either. They don't want to talk about that either. But they are telegraphing exactly what they want to do to us. You can't fault them. We're not going to be able to sit back 6 months from now and just sit around and say, I didn't see it coming. I mean, they are telling us where they want to take us.
And where they seems like they're going to take us is everybody's going to be in poverty, reliant on some superstructure that they're setting up for energy and food. And is that a conspiracy theory to think that?
No. They're telling us. I don't know, Alexander. You want to wait? I mean, this my opinion is that's what they're telling us.
Would it be hidden?
This is what they're telling us.
So so what do you see coming when they say it's coming? Oh, did they freeze? They froze for a second.
What we're going to see is an awful lot more attempts to use the institutions of the state against people who challenge the position of the political class and the oligarchy behind it. I mean, that's what it amounts to. As I said, if the challenge comes from people who are on the left or people who are defined as on the right, it really doesn't matter. It's the oligarchy which is in control, and it's going to attack anybody who challenges its position, and they're going to call them extremists, and they have all the machinery of the state now working for them. That's basically what I see, and it's very disturbing and very frightening. It's not inevitable. It can be resisted. There are mechanisms, I think, still in society to resist it, but that's the real challenge, I think.
And it's just amazing to hear them say things like this while they're murdering a journalist for doing journalism and exposing war crimes. And they're doing it right out in the open. And everyone pretends like Joe Biden isn't a murderer of journalists.
Oh, this is absolutely true. I mean, I should say I've attended the Assange hearings in London. Some of the people who are involved in that case are my friends. I know an awful lot about that, and I have to say, no, Assange, it has been taken through an absolutely grotesque legal process in London, is threatened with extradition to the United States, even though the case against him is chaotic and makes no real rational sense at all. The reason he's done that is because he's acted as a journalist should, as a reporter should, and he has exposed the kind of crimes that have been committed by the US government, by the British government, by other Western governments, but primarily, of course, and first and foremost, the US government as it pursues its foreign policies and its other policies around the world. And that's the entirety of the case. Joe Biden obviously has no problem with that. Neither, it seems, does the government of Britain.
Come see us do stand-up comedy in Spokane, Tacoma, Virginia Beach, Richmond, Arlington.